Hello everybody, welcome to the shop. I'm in the process of installing this water tank over here and I wanted to sit on something other than the concrete floor. So I decided to put an Octogon down on the floor. This is just a layer of synthetic decking and then synthetic flooring put over it. And let me just show you a little bit of what I did to make the calculations. The actual assembly is pretty straightforward, so I'm not going to go into a lot of that. I wanted to make an octagonal base, and I was going to put that octagonal piece of synthetic flooring on top of these synthetic boards, and I had to get an idea of how big to cut the pieces, and I could have probably looked it up on the internet, but decided to use a little trigonometry. So I wanted to go with an octagon and a regular octagon. So in the beginning I envisioned a square, and I know that the sides of the square were somewhere around 32 inches. In the actual number doesn't matter, it could be 32 kilometers for you metric guys out there. And I wanted to turn that into a regular octagon. So the question would be, how long are each of these segments? And excuse my poor drawing. So the thing to realize about an octagon is if you break it up into pi segments, each of these interior angles is 45 degrees. So if we just take a quarter of it, you'd end up with something that might look like this, and that's this section here. And you've got 45 in here degrees, and then 22 and a half down here and up here. And we know since this is 32 across both sides, this distance here is 16. And if we can figure out this dimension here, I'm going to call it d over 2, because d over 2 is referencing that dimension there, d, and that's the dimension that we care about. So again, referencing your trigonometry, if we look at this angle, the tangent of 22.5 degrees equals opposite over adjacent, and the opposite is d over 2 as we defined, and the adjacent we know is 16. So just doing a little algebra, 16 times the tangent, 22.5 degrees is d over 2, hence d is 32 times the tangent, 22.5 degrees. You take out your handy dandy calculator, that means d is about 13.25 inches. So then envisioning something like an octagon, you'd have a shape something like yo, and the first thing I was going to do is cut this piece. And because all these angles are 45 degrees, I was using a plank that was 5.25 inches wide. And if you look at that plank, this is a side view. If it's 5.25 in width, then since this is 45 degrees, this distance from here to here is also 5.25 inches. And we knew that the sides were 13.25 inches. So it was easy to cut the first piece and then do the calculation for the second piece and the third piece, and you get the idea. And if I zoom in on this, it's kind of hard to see. This down here is that first piece that we're talking about. Over on these sides, I cut some edges off of the synthetic decking, 13.25 inches long. And here you can see there's a gap in the boards. So this piece here just basically covers the end grain, if you will, of the synthetic decking. And over here there's another narrow piece of 13.25 inch edging. Knowing they were all 13.25 inches made it easy. Well, that's all I have. For those of you that thought that trigonometry was never going to come in handy, well, I beg to differ. Well, let me know what you think. If you have any comments, please leave them. You know I love to read them. Any thoughts going forward, how I can make my videos better, I'd appreciate that as well. And as always, like, subscribe if you will, and keep your eyes out for the next one.